Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah, where we try to take all those sources, all that noise.
And just boil it down for you, get right to the heart of what's going on.
Exactly.
Today, we are jumping into a story that, well, it started as a movie adaptation, but became this huge Hollywood legal drama.
We're talking about the It Ends With Us controversy, the film with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
And really, this isn't just some celebrity feud. It's like a case study in modern fame, legal battles, PR wars, the whole 9 yards.
Right. So our mission today is to kind of unpack all that for you. The lawsuits, the PR spin, the accusations flying back and forth.
We want to give you a clear picture of this really tangled situation.
And we've pulled together quite a bit of material. Insights from YouTube channels like Without a Crystal Ball and Mojo, Kajersti Flaw.
We've also got Wikipedia info on the controversy itself, and interestingly, on intimacy coordinators too, plus a key article from Metro News.
It's definitely multi-layered. Let's try and connect some dots.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Because initially, this project sounded amazing, right?
Totally. Colleen Hoover's book, It Ends With Us, massive bestseller.
Huge. And Blake Lively cast as Lily, Justin Baldoni as Ryle. And he's also directing his company Wayfarer got the rights.
Even Colleen Hoover was thrilled at first. Said Lively was her dream Lily. Baldoni was perfect for Ryle, like perfect casting, perfect setup.
Seemed like it. But that harmony didn't last long, did it?
No. And what's really interesting is how the cracks started showing kind of subtly at first during the promotional tour. That's where public perception really began to shift.
Yeah, those feud rumors started bubbling up on social media almost right away.
People noticed things. You know, Lively and Baldoni seeming to, like, actively avoid each other at events.
And the big one in this day and age, they weren't following each other online.
Right. Well, other cast members were following Lively, but maybe not Baldoni. Fans picked up on that contrast fast.
And it wasn't just whispers. Things got louder during production. TMZ started reporting on alleged incidents.
Things like fat shaming, and Baldoni apparently doing prolonged kissing in scenes.
Then there was all that speculation about Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, being maybe overly involved.
Yeah, the rumors were Reynolds wrote a scene, and Lively got her own edit done. That definitely suggests some kind of power struggle happening behind the cameras.
And the spotlight turned on Lively, too, for how she promoted the film.
That tone-deaf criticism. Like promoting her alcohol brand, Betty Booze, while doing interviews about a film with domestic violence themes. That didn't land well for some.
And that response she gave about victims reaching out, joking about GPS, that got a lot of backlash.
Yeah, not the most sensitive handling of a serious topic.
Meanwhile, Baldoni seemed to be fading into the background, promotion-wise.
He eventually made that comment, didn't he? About how there's always friction on a movie like this.
Which felt like a bit of an understatement at that point.
Totally. And the New York premiere.
Yeah.
That really seemed to confirm things were bad.
Lively walking with the other co-stars, Baldoni walking separately with his family.
And then Lively and Colleen Hoover introducing the film, not Baldoni, the director. That's unusual.
Yeah, pretty clear signs something was seriously wrong.
Okay, so that brings us to when things got official. The whispers became formal complaints.
Right. December 2024, Blake Lively files a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department.
And the allegations were serious, creating a hostile work environment through sexual harassment and boundary violations.
And these weren't vague either. She got specific.
Yeah, things like improvising kiss scenes, apparently entering her trailer when she was nude.
Even, she claimed, while she was breastfeeding, and letting friends watch her film sex scenes.
Plus, the accusation he told her fitness instructor she needed to lose weight in 2 weeks, and that he routinely degraded how she looked.
And that incident in the bar where she said he asked her to take off her coat and she felt ogled and exposed.
The complaint also mentioned other women potentially having similar issues.
And that all-staff meeting. That sounds intense.
Reportedly, yeah. Demands made for Baldoni to stop talking about her weight, her late father, even, bizarrely, cast and crew genitalia.
Wow. And no more adding sex scenes or talking about his supposed pornography addiction?
And Ryan Reynolds was apparently at that meeting, which tells you how serious it was being taken, at least by her side.
Now, it's really important to note here, there was an intimacy coordinator on set through all this.
Right, which is a key point we'll definitely circle back to. It raises big questions about how these things work, or sometimes don't.
Okay, so Lively files her complaint. Then, almost immediately after, the New York Times drops this bombshell article.
December 2024 again. Title is something like, "We Can Bury Anyone." inside a Hollywood smear machine.
And it alleged Baldoni hired a crisis PR person, Melissa Nathan, from the agency group, or TAG,
to basically bury Lively. Retaliation for her complaints.
And they cited that alleged text from Nathan to Baldoni. You know we can bury anyone.
Chillin' stuff. Really pulled back the curtain on that side of Hollywood.
But Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, he fired back immediately.
Oh yeah, called the Times claims false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious, complete denial.
He argued Baldoni's PR moves were all defensive, that Lively was the one planting and spreading bad stuff about him, not the other way around.
So right there you have two completely opposing stories hitting the public at the same time.
And it just shows how fast these things blow up, right? And how crucial crisis management is in trying to control that narrative.
Definitely. The battle lines were drawn not just legally, but in public opinion too. Perception becomes a reality very quickly in these situations.
So what happened next, the immediate fallout?
Well, it was pretty swift for Baldoni. He got dropped by his agency, WME.
Which is a huge deal in Hollywood. That happened just a day after Lively's complaint went public.
And then that organization, Vital Voices, they took back his Voices of Solidarity Award.
An award for, ironically, helping end domestic violence and supporting women.
Yeah, they cited those communications with his publicist that the Times had published.
On the flip side, support started lining up behind Lively.
Colleen Hoover, the author, posted, "Never wilt." Pretty clear message there.
Her co-stars Brandon Sklenar, Jenny Slate showed support.
And her Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants castmates, America Ferrera, Amber Tamblyn, Alexis Bledel, they put out a joint letter backing her.
Even Amber Heard weighed in, commenting about lies spreading on social media.
SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, praised Lively's courage, especially for requesting that intimacy coordinator.
And Sony Pictures, the studio distributing the film, made a statement condemning any attacks on her reputation.
But it wasn't just about Lively and Baldoni. The PR world itself got messy.
Right. Baldoni's former publicist, Stephanie Jones, sued him and his company.
Yeah, she alleged this conspiracy by other PR people, Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan, the one from the Times article, to basically undermine her firm and steal clients. She essentially blamed them for the whole alleged smear campaign against Lively.
Just layers upon layers, and then the big lawsuits started flying.
First, Baldoni sued the New York Times for libel, asking for, what, $250 million?
Yeah. Libel meaning, for you listening, a published false statement that hurts someone's reputation. He claimed the Times pushed a biased story with doctored text.
And at basically the same time, Lively filed her own federal lawsuit against Baldoni,
repeating her claims. Sexual harassment, retaliation, taking it to the federal level.
So now you've got lawsuits going in multiple directions. It really underscores how these things play out publicly and legally.
And it tests those legal protections for reporting misconduct, doesn't it? Even while the public narrative is just swirling.
Absolutely. But the legal fight was far from over. It actually escalated.
Massively. January 2025, Baldoni countersues, this time for $400 million.
And he's suing Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist, Leslie Sloan.
The claims: civil extortion like trying to bully him, defamation, and invasion of privacy.
His argument was basically that Lively tried to hijack the film with threats.
Accused her of using the harassment claims cynically just to get creative control and maybe cover for her own mistakes.
And he doubled down, saying the smear campaign Lively talked about, totally non-existent, made up.
So predictably, the other side filed motions to dismiss Baldoni's countersuit.
Right. A motion to dismiss is basically asking the judge, hey, throw this case out, it has no merit.
Leslie Sloan, the publicist, said her statements were just opinions or basically true anyway.
The New York Times said, look, we were just reporting on a fight, that's our job.
Reynolds' lawyers argued his alleged comments calling Baldoni a predator were protected opinion, and the lawsuit had no real facts backing it up.
And Lively's team pointed to that California law, the one protecting people who report sexual harassment or assault,
saying her communications about it were shielded.
And that led to a really big moment in June 2025.
Yeah, Judge Louis J. Lyman made a ruling. He dismissed Baldoni's defamation and extortion claims against Lively, Reynolds, and Sloan,
finding that Lively's accusations about harassment were, quote, legally protected, immune from being sued over.
So just to clarify for everyone listening what legally protected means here.
It basically means, under California's law, if you report sexual harassment in good faith, like in a formal complaint, you generally can't be sued for defamation for making that report. It's there to encourage reporting without fear of being sued back.
Got it. So a major win for Lively's side on those points.
Huge. But it wasn't a complete shutdown of Baldoni's case.
No, the judge allowed him to try again, to amend and refile some claims about interfering with contracts.
So the legal game continues. And importantly, Lively's original lawsuit against Baldoni and his PR team, that's still moving forward.
Right. That one's scheduled for trial in March 2026, last we heard.
Okay, but wait, there's more. It gets even wilder. Taylor Swift enters the chat. Sort of.
Unbelievable, right? Baldoni tried to subpoena Taylor Swift.
A subpoena being that legal order to testify or hand over documents.
His claim was that Lively used Swift and Reynolds' influence to pressure him about a script rewrite.
His lawyer apparently even claimed Lively threatened to leak personal texts if Swift didn't back her publicly.
Which sounds intense.
But Swift's team shot that down hard. Said she had nothing to do with it, besides licensing a song for the film.
Called the subpoena basically a publicity stunt. Tabloid clickbait.
And Judge Lehman initially seemed to agree, striking those filings and warning Baldoni's team about abusing the court process.
But just very recently, like mid-June 2025.
Yeah, twist. The court actually ruled that Baldoni can try to get those messages between Lively and Swift.
Saying they might be relevant after all. So that door isn't fully closed. Adds another wrinkle.
And the web just keeps expanding. Now, Scooter Braun is potentially involved.
Right. Lively moved to subpoena him and his company, High Beam America.
She wants documents about Melissa Nathan, Baldoni's crisis PR agent, because Hybe apparently invested in Nathan's firm.
So bringing Scooter Braun into this, given his whole history with Taylor Swift, it just adds this whole other layer of Hollywood power plays and connections. It's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly, because this whole controversy really shines a light on the role of intimacy coordinators.
Yeah, it's a role that's become much more prominent, especially post-#MeToo.
So what exactly is an intimacy coordinator?
Well, the definition is something like an advocate, a liaison between actors and production, and also a movement coach or choreographer for scenes involving nudity or simulated sex.
They really emerged after the Weinstein scandal in 2017, didn't they, to address those power imbalances on set?
Exactly. The goal is safer, more professional environments for actors during vulnerable scenes.
Their job is basically clear communication, making sure consent is ongoing, choreographing the physical actions.
Creating a safe space, essentially. It's not about stopping creativity, despite what some critics say. It's about enabling creativity safely.
But the industry reaction hasn't been universally positive.
No, definitely mixed. You have actors like Sean Bean saying they spoil the spontaneity.
Toni Collette mentioned feeling more anxious with them, even asked them to leave sets sometimes.
And some directors, like Mia Hansen-Løve, kind of dismissively called them virtue police.
But there's strong support too, right?
Oh yeah. SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union, and Equity in the UK, they strongly back them.
And they've been used successfully in huge shows like Bridgerton, Euphoria, where intimacy is key to the story.
So bringing it back to, it ends with us.
This is the crucial part. Lively reportedly demanded an intimacy coordinator, and there was one on set.
Right. Yet these allegations of discomfort, boundary violations, they still surfaced.
So what does that tell us?
Well, it suggests that having the role in place isn't necessarily a foolproof solution, you know?
It highlights that consent and power dynamics are incredibly complex, even when you have safeguards formalized. It's not just about checking a box.
Exactly. It prompts a deeper look at how these processes actually function on the ground.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this deep dive up. Where do things stand now?
Well, legally, some key parts of Baldoni's countersuit against Lively, Reynolds, and Sloan were dismissed. That was significant.
But his claims about contract interference are still potentially alive, and Lively's main lawsuit against him.
That's still heading towards a potential trial in March 2026. So the core legal battle is ongoing.
And the central accusation from the Times piece about that alleged smear campaign, that's still at the heart of Lively's case, right?
Yes. Even though Baldoni's defamation claims related to it were thrown out, her claim against him regarding it continues.
It's also worth pointing out, though,
that Lively side hasn't, as far as public records show, produced that smoking gun evidence yet for the harassment or the smear campaign details.
Despite Baldoni's team apparently asking for it since, February.
Right. So that lack of publicly visible proof just keeps fueling the debate and the conflicting stories.
And that's really the takeaway, isn't it? These two incredibly strong, conflicting narratives.
Absolutely. Both sides are accusing the other of manipulation, of spinning the media, of being the aggressor. It's a tangled mess of claims and counterclaims.
Who started what? Who's the real victim here? It's hard for an outsider to say definitively right now.
Yeah.
So as we finish up, This whole saga around It Ends With Us, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Not just about who's telling the truth in this specific case, but about how narratives get shaped in our hyper-connected digital world.
How much of what we read about celebrities is real? How much is organic?
And how much is, well, strategically crafted. Whether it's defensive or offensive PR, it's still a constructed story.
Regardless of the actual facts underneath sometimes.
Definitely something to keep in mind, and it'll be fascinating to see how these ongoing legal fights play out.
Not just for the careers involved, but maybe for how Hollywood handles these kinds of disputes moving forward. Will it change anything?
That's the big question, isn't it? A lot left to unfold.